saw, we are doing a 24-hour readathon today and I am so excited. I've honestly been itching to do another one of these for so long, and I feel like this is the perfect time because it is February 22nd and I have not read a single book this month. I don't know if I'm in a book slump or if it's just the fact that I've been really busy, so I just haven't had much time to read, or I haven't been dedicating the time to read at least. But something's gotta change, and I'm really in the mood to just get back into reading, and I feel like a 24-hour readathon will be the perfect solution. And I just always enjoy doing these. I think they're fun. I definitely will not be staying up for 24 hours. I just cannot do that. Hopefully I'll be able to stay up kind of late and then just get like 3 to 5 hours of sleep and then wake up feeling refreshed enough to do it again the next day, because I feel like that works a lot better for me than just trying to stay up for 24 hours. For now, I wanted to show you the books that are on my hopefuls list. On a side note, please ignore what's going on behind me. We have somebody who's staying here on our couch, so we have an absurd amount of pillows and blankets and things going on behind me, and I didn't really want to mess with it. But this is the stack of hopefuls that I want to read in this 24 hours. I definitely don't think I will get to all of them, but they are just what's on my radar right now. And first of which is a book that I'm actually, I think, like 80% of the way through, which is Funny Feelings by Tara DeWitt. I think I've been reading this book since the very beginning of February and I have not finished it, which is crazy because it's just a simple little romance that is maybe 300 pages. I'm enjoying this book. There's nothing wrong with it. It is not the reason why I'm not wanting to read. I feel like I've been really busy after work this month and just haven't had as much time to read, but I am very excited to finally knock this out and finish it. Personally, I think it's perfect to start a readathon with a book that I'm almost done with, because in the first hour, 2 hours, I should finish my first book and start with some good momentum. I've been reading this on my Kindle, so I just checked. I am 82% of the way through. So in the physical book, I'm on page 263 and all I have is this much left. Wow, okay, so 40 pages. This says it will take me an hour and 6 minutes to finish the book, according to my average reading speed so far. Why would it take me over an hour to read 40 pages? Unfortunately, that's just how it is. I am really a slow reader. Then I have This Is How You Lose the Time War, which was on my February TBR, and it's also super short, so I feel like she's perfect for a readathon. The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni, which is the first book in a young adult fantasy trilogy, and I really shouldn't be starting any new series because I'm trying to get through the ones that I'm currently in the middle of. But for some reason, I don't know why, but this book, I've had it in my head that this would be fun to do in a 24-hour readathon. Ever since I've had the book, I've thought that it would be great to include in one of these. I don't know why, because actually I feel like I heard somebody talking about it recently and saying that the first part of this book is kind of slow, but that the ending is really worth it and then the rest of the series is faster paced. So actually this could be an awful choice. I'm not really sure. But for some reason, I've always thought that it seems like it would be a fun, kind of easier fantasy to get into. So we'll see if I get to it. Us Against You by Frederick Bachman, which is book 2 in the Beartown series. I loved Beartown. I gave that 5 stars and I can't wait to continue it. And same with Apprentice to the Villain. This is book 2 in the, I think it's just called the Assistant to the Villain series. Bottom line, I just want to read books that I'm really interested in. So those are what are on my radar right now, but we'll see what happens once I finish the first book. Before I get into this one and finish it, let me tell you what it's about real quick and my thoughts. This is a contemporary romance about Farley and Meyer. They're both comedians, and Meyer is, I think, 10 years older than her, and he's actually kind of retired from the stand-up space, and now he is Farley's manager. Farley is, I think, newer to the world of stand-up, but she is doing a really great. She's crushing it. So she's given this amazing opportunity. She's super excited. And the people have one request, which is that she fake dates somebody to drum up publicity for the tour. And of course, the person that she's going to fake date is Meyer, her manager. So far, I'm enjoying it. I feel like I can't necessarily give you very concrete points on this book because it's taken me so long to read it, which is just an injustice to any book if I do that. But what I can tell you is that I was really interested in this one because I've heard that it's actually funny and not cringy in a way that I think a lot of rom-com books are when they try and be funny and it's just not really clicking. It's not like it's making me laugh, but I am not cringing at any of it. So I guess kind of a happy medium. Our male main character is a single dad, and I have really enjoyed that aspect. I feel like he seems like such a good father, and the way that it's integrated into the story, I've just really enjoyed. And yeah, I feel like I'm having a good time. Honestly, I just cannot wait to finish it. Cross this off my list because it has taken me way too long, and I'm ready to just kind of move on to something else. So I think I'm just going to finish this book. Hopefully it won't take me a full hour and 6 minutes because that seems like way too long. And I will get back to you once I'm done and I'm picking out my next book. How has my time gone up by 3 minutes? Did you see what that said? I hope not. why it is so incredibly yellow in here. One moment. I put the dreaded overhead light on and I think that's better. Anyways, as you saw, I finished Funny Feelings and I have now moved on to This Is How You Lose the Time War. And I was going to explain this to you, but I'll give you my final thoughts, I guess, real quick on Funny Feelings. I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I did definitely enjoy it, and I didn't talk before about our main character. A really big point of the book is the fact that she is this comedian who is like very vulgar, inappropriate, like not always the most ladylike or put together. She often says the wrong thing at the wrong time, that sort of thing. And it's kind of just a part of her brand of comedy, but at the same time, it's something that she sometimes feels insecure about. And I enjoyed that part of the book because I felt like I could relate to at least some aspects of the way that she feels and the way that she is. And watching her come to terms with the fact that there's nothing wrong with her the way that she is, and it doesn't make her unlikable in a romantic point of view. Because there were points where I think she felt like she was not lovable or maybe not feminine enough to attract romantic attention. She may not always be everybody's cup of tea, but that's fine. She is still lovable, she's still attractive, and she should not change herself. So I enjoyed that part. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else new to say, so I'm just gonna move on to the next book, which I am only 15 pages into. I wanted to just start it really quick and see if I could actually get into it, and I'm feeling kind of skeptical. I'm not totally sure. This is a science fiction book, and it's about two people on opposite sides of a war that involves time travel, and they are writing letters to each other, and I believe that they end up falling into some sort of romance. That is all that I knew going into this book, and I've had it for a while. I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. I've heard that the writing is really beautiful, the message, like all of it is just stunning. So I've always looked forward to it, and I thought it was going to be a very quick, fun read. And recently I saw a reading vlog from, I think it was Katie's Reading, where she tried to read this book and she actually DNF'd it because the writing is interesting. It's definitely very convoluted, I think is how I would describe it. Very much not straightforward. Like, I don't really know what's going on here. We jumped right into the thick of things without getting any sort of explanation. And the writing is very like over the top, kind of poetic or just confusing. Like, I don't really know how to describe it. It's very descriptive, but kind of in an abstract way to where you don't actually really know what's going on. I know that the two main characters that we're following are Red and Blue. They're both female and they're both not human. So far, there's really been no backstory. Just little tidbits of information have been kind of thrown in. For instance, I know that they're not human because on the very first page, we are in Red's point of view. After a mission comes a grand and final silence. Her weapons and armor fold into her like roses at dusk. Once flaps of pseudo-skin settle and heal and the programmable matter of her clothing knits back together, Red looks again something like a woman. So she is not a human, but she is female and she's maybe modeled somewhat like a human. I don't really know. So I totally understand why Katie DNF'd this and said that this was just too difficult, like just not really something she was in the mood to read, because this definitely is going to take some brain power. And that's actually why I picked this one, because I was like, you know what? It's still early afternoon. I'm not sleepy or anything. And I feel like my brain is ready to kind of try and focus on a book like this, I guess. Whereas if I left this towards the end of the reading vlog, I think I would either be too sleepy or too far into the challenge to try and read this. So I don't know. This could definitely be a flop for me, and it could be a DNF, but I'm gonna give it a try. And so far, I feel like the key to reading this book for me is probably going to be to just try not to actually understand everything that's going on. I think if I get caught up trying to really understand the world and the missions that they're on and what's happening, I'll probably get lost. It will take me too long to read and I probably won't enjoy it. But from what I've heard, I feel like the letters between the two and probably the characters themselves is more so what's important than the war that's going on. And the letters actually were easier to understand than the rest of the writing. So yeah, I feel like this was an interesting pick, maybe not the best for a readathon. And you know what? If I cannot get into it, then I will put it down and I will pick it up another time. But I just wanted to give it a try. It is 6:10. I have 19 hours and 24 minutes left on my timer, so we are just over 4.5 hours in, and I just finished the second book. Feels pretty good to be done with 2 books already, even if I was already 80% of the way through one of them. As you saw, I listened to the audiobook for This Is How You Lose the Time War. I think I listened to probably 75% of it, and I'm definitely glad that I listened to it. I feel like it was much easier to absorb that way, but still, like, I don't know how I feel about that book at all. I feel like I won't be able to give a rating for it. After reading it, I'm like, I don't think I'm smart enough to understand what happened here. I understood the ending and kind of what was happening, but at the same time, I was definitely confused for 90% of the book, I feel like. And like I said, I think that the plot of the book is definitely taking a back seat to the letters and the romance between Red and Blue, but it was just, I don't know, definitely a weird book. It is beautifully written. I almost feel like it's a book where the authors were just trying their hardest to write beautiful prose in a confusing way almost. You know what I mean? Like, it almost was like, okay, are we trying to be pretentious here? Are you trying to make it so that none of us know what you're talking about? Which I'm sure that's definitely not it. And looking at the Goodreads reviews, tons of people love this book. They resonate with it. They pull a bunch of quotes and things that they love. And you know what? Maybe they're faking it. Maybe we all were equally confused, but I don't think so. I think it was more of a me problem. No, not a me problem. Honestly, I think that at least 50% of people who would pick up this book would probably feel about the same way I do. I don't know. It was just a very interesting experience. I'm glad that I finally knocked it off my list. I think it was actually one of my 25 books to read in 2025, so glad to have another one of those down. I now am parked outside of Barnes. I am ready to go in, start a new book, and just sit there and read for a bit. I don't know how long I'll be here. I'm actually super hungry, and it's 6:15, so I'll probably only be here for like max 2 hours if I had to guess, but we'll see. I'll probably kind of peruse the books a little bit just to give my brain a little bit of a break before I hop right into my next book. But I did bring my Kindle, which I know has The Prison Healer, the second Beartown book, and then a bunch of other things on it. And then I did bring my copy of Apprentice to the Villain. So we will see what I end up reading. I'm excited to take a little bit of a break to just look through the books, which is obviously one of my favorite things to do, and just enjoy a change of scenery and start a new book. So I just got back from Barnes and it is 7:52. I currently have 17 hours and 42 minutes left on my timer. And to be perfectly honest with you, I think that going to Barnes was more of a distraction than it was anything else, but that's okay. I probably needed a little bit of a brain break. So I think I spent like 30 minutes just looking at books, and then I sat down for a while and I read 25 pages of Apprentice to the Villain. But I am back home now and I need to cook dinner, and I'm upset because this book is not on Spotify, or it's not included in the free audiobooks that you can listen to. It's locked, so I would have to pay for it if I want to listen to it or use an Audible credit. And I wanted to be able to listen to it on my drive home and right now while I cook, but I don't really think I want to use a whole credit on it. Like, I'd like to read the whole thing physically. It just would have been nice to be able to listen to it while I was doing things. But oh well. Almost 11:30 and I have 14 hours and 10 minutes left on my timer, and I wanted to give you a quick update on Apprentice to the Villain and tell you what the book's about, because I don't think I did that. I am on page 105, so I think I'm about a third of the way through, and I know I said I wasn't going to get the audiobook, but I did, and I regret that I didn't get it earlier. I decided to get it because I was like, you know what, when it comes to the kind of late night hours of a 24-hour readathon, I really need something to listen to. Otherwise, I'm probably going to fall asleep in about 20 minutes, and that is just not very fun. And I have some stuff that I need to get done tonight, so I was like, you know what, audiobook is perfect. But as for what the book is about, like I said, it is book 2 in the Assistant to the Villain series. Basically, it is an adult fantasy romance series that is very whimsical and silly. It's not like your average fantasy book where there's a big magic system, world building, things like that. It's very much just whimsical, like you're in this little woodland forest and some people have magic. It's honestly a very easy fantasy series to get into. If you like romance and you've been wanting to try out fantasy romance, I would recommend this because in the grand scheme of things, it really has very little fantasy elements. It's more so just fairy tale whimsical-esque. But anyways, I am really enjoying it. I loved book 1 so much more than I expected. I almost gave it 5 stars, which was like just so crazy. I really didn't expect that. I was very excited for it. It was one of my anticipated reads, but I just didn't have high hopes for it to be like a revolutionary fantasy book. And I feel like it was really great to have those expectations ahead of time because it was just a silly, goofy time and I really enjoyed it. We are following Evie Sage, who becomes an assistant to the villain. He's literally just known as the villain and he just does big, bad, villainous things. And to give you kind of an idea of how it's very silly, it's like he's this villain and we don't even know what his sole purpose is, I guess, other than he just really likes to mess with the king and kind of just like derail things. But at the same time, it's like this whole business thing. So he has like an office in this mansion and he has an HR lady and he's got interns and he's got like magical creature handlers, and then he hires Evie as his assistant. So it's very ridiculous in that kind of sense, and that's a big part of why I love it. It doesn't take itself seriously like whatsoever. It's just fun, and I feel like with books that are like this, you either connect with them or you don't. It kind of depends on the writing style, I think. Sometimes for me, when I've read books like this in the past, it comes off as like the author is trying too hard to just be cool and funny, and it just really misses the mark for me. And then other times like this, I just really love it. I like the author's writing, and everything feels very natural to me. Like, it doesn't feel forced. I actually think that parts of it are very funny. I love the characters. I feel like I'm going on and on just telling you that I really enjoy it. I'm just very excited to continue. I definitely knew that I wanted to get to this book very soon after reading the first one. Just because I enjoyed it so much, I wanted to continue the series while it was fresh. And once I finish this, I will probably be sad because I think the third book doesn't come out until August, but that's a problem for another day. Good morning, guys. I am afraid that I have bad news. I am very disappointed in myself because I just woke up and it's 9:52 and I only have 3 hours and 43 minutes left on my timer. Also, why do I sound kind of stuffy? I went to bed sometime after 1 and I definitely wanted to wake up at like 6, 7 in the morning. Like, I only wanted to get a few hours of sleep. By a few, I mean like 5, 6 hours of sleep, which I feel like is plenty. And then I wanted to start early this morning. I did not want to wait until 10 o'clock in the morning to get started. Now I barely have any time left, so I am definitely contemplating changing the rules today. Since I went to bed around 1, that means I got through about 12 hours yesterday. So I thought, what if I just do another 12 hours today? But considering it's 10 o'clock, I won't have time for that. So for some reason, I'm thinking, what if I deduct the amount of time that I have left from 12 hours? I think I might do that. I'll cancel my timer and I will add on 8.5 hours. I just really wanted this to be at least like a solid 18, 20 hours of me reading. I really didn't want to waste 9 hours sleeping, so. Alright, so it's 5:18. I am back from my workout class. I had a quick snack and I kind of cooled down. And now I'm thinking that maybe I overestimated myself, but I did pause the timer because I wanted to just read as much as possible, I guess. I'm just really loving dedicating all this time to reading, so just wanted this 24 hours to be as long as possible, I guess. So I currently have 4 hours and 37 minutes left on my timer. It says that if I start now, I will be done at 9:56, so. Better get started because it's gonna be a late night, I think. Honestly, not even that surprised that I haven't finished this yet. I think this morning I was like, I can't wait to finish it in the morning. I should definitely finish before I leave for my class. But this book just is one of those where it's that tall paperback format where there's a lot of words on the page. So it seems like it's not that long, like it's only 335 pages. Seems like no problem. But if this was in the like traditional paperback format, I feel like it would probably be more like 450 pages or something like that. I don't know. I'm literally just making up that number. Just trying to justify the fact that I'm still reading this, but I'm actually super close to the end. I was very upset to leave without finishing it. I'm on chapter 79, page 314, which that's something that I haven't talked about that I love about this series is that the chapters are really short. So there's a ton of them and I feel like they go by so quick. And a lot of times there's like some sort of small, not like a cliffhanger or anything, but there's always some sort of little thing at the end that just draws me in and makes me want to get to the next chapter. So I'm loving the formatting, the fact that we have short chapters, just loving it. I have about 20 pages left, gonna finish this, and then we'll move on to my last read. in the home stretch. I only have 2 hours left. And as you saw, I finished Apprentice to the Villain and I started The Prison Healer. As for Apprentice to the Villain, I think I'm gonna give it a 4-star probably. I definitely do think that I was enjoying it 10 times more reading it than listening to the audiobook, which is weird because I was enjoying the audiobook, but then when I switched back over to reading it, I just noticed that I'm enjoying it so much more. And I think that it may have been around a 4.5 like the first book if I read it all physically. So I don't really know if it was the book that was the reason why I liked it slightly less, but I still really enjoyed it. I had so much fun and it had me smiling and laughing. So really happy that I read that one and I cannot wait for book 3 to come out. But now I have finally started The Prison Healer, which like I said, I've been saving for a 24-hour readathon for some reason. And I've had this book for probably at least 2 years now and always wanted to read it, but just never got around to it. And now I am 16% of the way through. I have been enjoying it so far. I do feel like I'm only like 60 something pages in, so we're just kind of building things up. I wouldn't say it's going super slow, but it's definitely not a book where we are like thrown into the thick of things and we start kind of fast paced. But I think I just got to the point where things are going to start to pick up, which is very exciting. Which, if you don't know what this book is about, it is a young adult fantasy, or maybe it's just dystopian, because so far I don't really know what the fantasy aspect is. So it very well could be just dystopian. I'm not really sure yet. About our main character, Kiva, who is the prison healer in this very deadly prison called, I keep mispronouncing it in my head, Zollendov, which they call it a death prison. I don't know if anybody ever gets released from it. It seems like once you're sentenced to go there, you're just there until you die. It's very brutal. People are dying all the time. Very hard to survive. And Kiva has been the prison healer for at least several years. She has managed to survive. And in the outside world, the kingdoms or whatever is going on, I don't totally understand the situation yet, but there is some sort of rebellion and there is a rebel queen who ends up getting sent to the prison. And basically the only thing that I was aware of is the fact that this rebel queen gets sent here and she is forced to compete in these trials, but she is too sick, so Kiva ends up taking her place. And the trials are basically just a death sentence. Nobody has ever survived them, and they only do them for like their most dangerous criminals. But if you do somehow manage to survive, then you are given your freedom. And I just got to the point where the rebel queen was just put in the prison. So Kiva is about to start taking care of her. She was told that she has to compete in the trials and she has to make the queen as healthy as possible so that she can compete. And I actually have no idea why Kiva is in the prison. All we know is that her family is on the outside and they have been sometimes secretly sending her messages. So I'm very excited. I don't remember the last time that I read a fantasy book with trials. I feel like it's always fun. It's such a staple, especially in young adult fantasy. So I'm excited to see how it's done here. This series is super popular and I've heard nothing but amazing things, except for the fact that maybe this first book is a little bit slow. So we'll see if I agree with that. But I'm not expecting to get through too much of it before my timer runs out. My Kindle says I have 6.5 hours left in the whole book. So definitely not going to finish it in the next 2 hours, but we'll see how far I can get. And I will probably give you my final thoughts and wrap up this whole video tomorrow. So maybe I will have made it through a good chunk by then. But I'm just so excited to finally be reading this book after having it for so long and kind of hyping it up in my head. It just feels so good to finally be reading all these books that I've been waiting for so long.